Ciao, what's poppin' YouTube? So we are back for the last instalment of my villain deep dive into the Daleks. Thanks for sticking with me, this far. These videos have actually really helped to grow the channel out, and I'm really liking having these little discussions in the comment section, so thank you all very much for that. So anyway, in the last video we talked about the pretty naff Dalek era that was the Stephen Moffat run of the show. But the Grand Moff stepped down as showrunner and the Chibnator took over in 2018.
It could have been a lot better. It could have been slightly better written.
So this era of the show brought a lot of changes, many of which were really not that well received by the greater public and the fan base. But this video is about the Daleks, not the cultural context of the show. Anyway, we had a new showrunner, a new TARDIS, a new Doctor, new companions, even a completely new writing team, and even old dependable Murray Gold was gone. So it was a completely different show, basically. Now, Chibnall had said that he was not going to be using any of the classic Doctor Who enemies in the first season, instead choosing to come up with new enemies for the Time Lord to face, which, in my opinion, was a pretty good idea, especially coming in from the nostalgia fest of the final Moffat, seasons. But that raised the obvious question: what about the Daleks? Is the Nation of States contract over? Is Chibnall just going to ignore it and never use the Daleks again? And, well, no, he just made the Dalek episode the Christmas, or, well, now New Year's, specials. And we got our first Dalek story of the Chibnall era, with Resolution. So this story was trying very hard to make the Daleks a credible threat again. It sort of succeeded, but as we'll soon see, the Chibnall Daleks are kinda tonally inconsistent. But yeah, this was our first dedicated Dalek story since The Witch is Familiar, and it's pretty good actually. It's rather silly, and it became quickly apparent that we'd never actually get back to the RTD Daleks, but yeah. So the story basically follows a bunch of family drama about Ryan and his deadbeat dad, but while this is going on, some human archaeologists have unearthed some remains of a Dalek buried on Earth. Basically, back in the Middle Ages, a Dalek scout from Skaro showed up on Earth. So when the Daleks first became spacefaring, they sent these recon scouts off to scout out planets for the main Dalek fleet to conquer, and so this one was dispatched to Earth. However, for some reason, it's in a bronze casing. Can we please have a Dalek redesign? Please? I mean, I know people didn't like the paradigm, but can we just get a new Dalek type? Or just use the classic Daleks if we're going to be going with the whole, this is from the first spacefaring Daleks, so why isn't he silver? Or even grey? Anyway, it landed in England and had a, very BBC-approved group of extremely diverse middle-aged knights managed to defeat the Dalek and chopped the mutant up into little pieces and then buried the bits around the world. So apparently extreme heat destroys Daleks now, we learn. And so on its face this is really stupid because you're telling me that the medieval Englishman can kill a Dalek? One Dalek should have been able to wipe out the entirety of the middle-aged humanity. Back in the RTD era, they would have, because the Doctor makes a comment that 4 Daleks had conquered the world in 1920s. So these archaeologists find the Dalek gun as well, along with the remains of the Dalek mutant, and they hit it with some UV light by accident, and it regenerates the Dalek for some reason. But whatever. So the Dalek mutant manages to attack and sort of controls one of the archaeologists by hopping on her back and controlling her limbs and speech box and things. So that's pretty cool. We get to see that the Dalek mutant is a threat even outside of its casing, and that they can now operate human beings like puppets.
See how I control you. Turn. Look. You are my prisoner. Now.
The Dalek is also a lot bigger than it used to be, and a lot more... what's the word I want? Prehensile, I guess. I know Dalek Sec was pretty big when we saw him, but anyway, this is all quite cool. So the Doctor becomes aware of the Dalek somehow, and the Dalek uses its prisoner to build a new Dalek casing in a metal shop in Sheffield. And I remember when this scene aired, and I was watching this with my family, because I guess there wasn't anything better to do on New Year's Day than, watch Doctor Who. And anyway, my dad was, we were watching this scene, and he was like, you telling me that a full-on Dalek is about to come around that corner? And then it did, and I think he wanted just to get up and leave the room. But anyway, so the Dalek then somehow manages to build a really shit-looking Dalek casing, and then has this fight with the army where it absolutely bodies them.
Allocated surrender period has expired. Consequence extermination. The Dalek race is supreme.
And then it tries to call the Dalek fleet in to destroy the Earth. The Doctor then uses this, microwave thing to melt its casing in a scene that encapsulates everything people used to, meme on the Daleks for. and the Dalek casing melts. However, the threat of the mutant is not over, as the mutant itself survives and starts to puppeteer Ryan's deadbeat dad and threatens to kill him if they don't, bow to his demands. However, they manage to push the Dalek mutant into the sun to destroy it, and Ryan and his dad make up. So this episode is a really mixed bag. The Daleks are still voiced by Nicholas Briggs, thankfully, but this is a weird one. So on one hand, the Dalek is really shit in this. On the other hand, it manages to make them actually threatening again. So the casing looks awful, but it's kind of allowed to look awful because it is like a salvaged one, and the entire episode is very silly, and the Dalek literally gets destroyed by medieval knights and then a microwave, but the mutant itself is actually a very threatening creature that takes literally a sun to destroy it, so it's all over the place. The scene with the Dalek destroys the army definitely makes them feel like a killing machine again, although it is a very goofy looking scene, and I do have a few questions. So nobody seems to know what a Dalek is, even though these English people lived through 2 Dalek invasions during the 2000s, and the authorities should have records of them from the whole Victory of the Daleks fiasco, and probably even the CIA should have reference to them from finding their destroyed casings in the 1920s. But the whole show acts like the entire Moffat and RTD era didn't really happen. I have no clue about the continuity of the show anymore. Season 5 at least referenced the RTD era, but then the Grand Moff rebooted the entire universe with the Big Bang, so he could effectively ignore whatever he wanted, but Chibs has really no excuse. Also, I feel like this episode really tried to make the Daleks threatening again, but fell a little short. Dalek did everything this episode wanted to do better, and I still feel like Into the Dalek is a better episode. I'm basically using Into the Dalek as my litmus test going forward. If Into the Dalek did the Daleks better, your episode needs some work, basically. Especially since all the 3 episodes were, trying to reintroduce the Daleks. I just think this is the weakest one of the 3, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. So moving forward, the Daleks would appear once a season on New Year's, so we had to wait a whole year to see the Daleks return in Revolution of the Daleks. So another of the Daleks, and this story aired on New Year's again, but by this time I had tapped out Doctor Who. The first Chibnall series had been pretty bad, and I had heard horror stories of the second. The Timeless Children was such a middle finger to the sanity of the population of Great Britain that I decided I would, wait for the Chibnallator to be vanquished. I might do a video on the Timeless Children later, but because of this series, I went and watched all the Chibnall Dalek episodes. So Revolution of the Daleks was on the list, and I'll be honest, this is actually a pretty good episode. So the story opens as a direct sequel to Resolution. Basically, the Trump dude from the Spider episode gets a hold of the Dalek casing that was ruined, and gets this scientist dude on the payroll to reverse engineer the Dalek tech and create this anti-riot drone based on the Daleks. He's planning on selling them to Liz Truss, who is poised to become the next Prime Minister of England. This is the first time in a while in which we've actually had a real redesign of the Daleks, and it's not bad. I mean, I wouldn't like these as the basic Daleks, but these sort of human-made Daleks are a pretty cool design. It also gives me huge vibes of the Cybermen, where we have the whole, what if the Cybermen started on Earth, and this is kind of like a what if the Daleks started on Earth, and it's quite a cool little idea. And so the Doctor, who has been stewing in Jadoon Jail for some reason, gets rescued by Captain Jack, and now the show is acting like the RTD era happened again, with Jack directly referencing the events of Parting of the Ways, but nobody knows what a Dalek is, so I guess Doomsday and Journey's End aren't canon. I mean, whatever, you can't take the Doctor Who canon too seriously. But, the companions see the Daleks on the news, and the Doctor shows up, and they go off to investigate. Basically, Scientist Man found some genetic remains of the actual Dalek mutant and has made himself a new Dalek, which has somehow, in secret, managed to set up an entire Dalek factory in Japan. I mean, don't question it. So Liz Truss unveils her new Daleks, but then the Daleks in the factory teleport into their new casings and just shoot her and just start indiscriminately killing everyone and start to take over the world.
And I do not surrender. Exterminate! This territory is the property of the Daleks. Daleks are in control.
So the Doctor then sends an anonymous tip to another group of Daleks who are still Time War Daleks for some reason. Anyway.
Incoming reconnaissance signal detected. Strategize. Program destination for Earth. Resistance must be expected.
And they come to Earth to kill the Poser Daleks, which works. There's a cheeky little Dalek civil war.
Exterminate the impurities. Exterminate the impurities.
And in the end, all the, fake Daleks get killed.
There is only one purification. Exterminate!
But then the Doctor has the issue of like another group of Daleks preparing to take over the world, and so Captain Jack, Graham and Ryan blow up the Dalek ship, while the Doctor tricks a bunch of the other Daleks into a spare TARDIS she had just like lying around, and then gets the TARDIS to implode and kill them all.
Attack the TARDIS!
So this story is pretty good, to be fair. This is the best Dalek episode we've had since Into the Dalek, and there's a lot to like here. The Daleks are treated very seriously, they kill a lot of people, and are once again treated with the respect that they deserve. We get another Dalek Civil War, which we haven't seen in a long time, and the Daleks are written pretty well, and we get some honest, good Dalek lines. There is also this really cool scene where like the Trump dude betrays humanity to the Daleks, and the Daleks are legitimately confused by the concept that someone would betray their own race, which is a neat little bit of subtle characterization for the Daleks. Now, there are a few issues. The Daleks once again can't aim when it comes time to kill the main characters. And this is my biggest Dalek-related gripe here. All the Daleks are the same, including the leaders. There should have been some kind of visual difference. I've seen an edit where there's a black Paradigm Dalek leading the Death Squad Daleks, which would have been really sick. It looks amazing.
There is only one purification. Exterminate!
But even just giving the leader a black casing like Dalek Sec, or just a black dome like the OG Saucer Commander, would have gone a long way. And also, like from just a structural standpoint, the episode's pacing is really bad, but this is specifically a video about the Daleks, not about the episodes themselves. And I think I'd like to talk about one more thing here that sort of the classic series never really did, was the Daleks really shouldn't invade present-day Earth, because it just creates so many issues for when they do. Like, you should stick it to like a couple of invasions. Right, when you think about the classic series, like the Daleks invaded in the 22nd century, I think it was, in the Dalek invasion of Earth. And then all their wars with humanity were in the far future. I know in the third Doctor's run we get Daleks, we get a few Daleks in like the 70s. And then I guess in, was it Resolution of the Daleks? Or, no, Resurrection of the Daleks, sorry. We get some Daleks, well we get one Dalek at least, on present-day Earth. And then it wasn't until the RTD era where they sort of started showing up a lot in present-day Earth, and then the Moffat era kind of luckily pulled them away from that. They, there was Victory of the Daleks was the only time the Daleks interacted with, yeah, like modern-day Earth during that run. And it just adds a mess of, like, when you have the time travel. Like, why did Van Statten not know what a Dalek was when him, owning the internet, should have had access to the Cult of Skaro casings from the 1920s. Now, I understand from, like, you know, behind the scenes, obviously those episodes haven't been written yet, but in universe it doesn't really make a whole ton of sense. But, so the Daleks were featured in the events of the Flux, which was this big, like, season-long arc, and it ended with the Doctor using the Flux, which is, like, this big apocalypse event to destroy a massive Dalek fleet, which is the setup for the Daleks' last dedicated episode in the Chibnall era, with Eve of the Daleks. So Eve of the Daleks starts off really well. Basically, the Doctor is resetting the TARDIS and tries to land on this beach, but lands in this hilariously big storage place instead. The TARDIS locks them out, and they go off to find a New Year's party. But, you know, they get stuck in this time loop, basically. There's this big, like, temporal field around the storage facility that's been projected in by the Daleks to stop them from escaping. There are also these two other characters who have this, like, romance subplot who are here too. One of them is this, like, kind of, like, dorky guy who has a crush on the woman who owns the storage facility. But anyway, this Dalek with this, like, weird minigun thing phases in and kills everyone, including the Doctor and her companions. So the Daleks are back.
Exterminate!
Not like this.
But the Doctor and co are stuck in a time loop, so the episode keeps going with them getting killed by the Dalek, and then, you know, 2 Daleks show up, and then 3 Daleks show up, and, you know. Basically, every time the loop resets, it gets 1 minute closer to midnight, and when it hits midnight, the loop ends. The Daleks are basically trying to kill the Doctor as revenge for blowing up their fleet during the Flux, and they realise they are stuck in a time loop as well. So basically the Doctor manages to trick the Daleks into blowing themselves up, and they all escape. And the time loop was caused by the TARDIS resetting or something. I don't know. So this episode is kind of weird. Like, on one hand, the Daleks are just killing people left and right. They even kill the Doctor multiple times. There are some great scenes here and there, but then there are just some not so great scenes, and when the plot permits it, the Daleks just miss very easy shots.
Hey, I'll report you to your manager.
Daleks do not have managers.
Yeah, well, maybe that's
That's your problem.
So yeah, this episode is tonally all over the place and is clearly trying to be more light-hearted, but the Daleks' fear factor Chibnall has been trying to clearly build up over his run gets pretty squandered, especially once you get past like the first 10 minutes of this episode. Overall, the non-Dalek stuff here is actually pretty good, so altogether not a bad episode, but not really that noteworthy. There are a few things where I think were missed opportunities, like there's a scene where the Daleks take the lights out, and they're looking around for them in the dark, and you really should have had like the Daleks' like blue eye, like in the dark, like so the audience can see them. But then what would happen is you get these like really cheesy jump scares where like they'd look, there'd clearly be no Dalek, then they'd turn, walk a few paces, turn back, and there's a Dalek standing right behind them. It'd have been so much better to have it like they look behind them and you can see the blue eye, but that's just like a directing thing. I just thought that was kind of a wasted opportunity. But the only really noteworthy character addition that Chibnall added to the Daleks here seems to be that they actually have a personal vendetta against the Doctor because she killed millions of Daleks, which means they do have some sense of camaraderie between them, which is something that we haven't really seen before in the Daleks. But yeah. And the Daleks would show up again in the absolutely zany, overstuffed, rather lame ending to the Whittaker run called Power of the Doctor. So this is sort of like some of their appearances in the Moffat era, like Time of the Doctor, where they just sort of appear alongside a bunch of other enemies and aren't really the focal point of the story. But I feel like I should probably mention this. So this time they are sharing the screen with the Cybermen and the Master. Basically there is a traitor Dalek that tries to warn the Doctor about a Dalek scheme to erupt Earth's volcanoes to kill everyone, which then turns out that the main Daleks knew about the traitor and then let them contact the Doctor, so the Doctor would get trapped by them and then taken to the Master because he has this zany plan to like get the Doctor to regenerate into him or something. I don't know, it was all a bit weird. But the Daleks are defeated, and one of them even gets just beaten to death by Ace, just like back in the 80s, so really not a great showing. Would have much preferred it if they just weren't in this, as you could have replaced them with literally any enemy and the story would have been pretty much the same. You could almost cut them entirely from the story and nothing much would change. You would just have to have the Cybermen be the one to catch the Doctor. So a pretty lame ending for them in the Chibnall era. So overall, the Chibnall era was a pretty mixed bag for the Daleks. You know, they have a new theme song, which is alright, but nothing as good as the non-stop bangers Murray God was dropping for them. Chibnall succeeded in making them mostly dangerous again, although the plot armour of the protagonists is as bad as the Moffat ones here. Like, the Daleks go from being, like, competent killing machines to just missing every shot. Like, all the time. Like, take it back to the classic series, the Daleks didn't miss. They did not miss until, like, I guess they did start to miss into, like, the later episodes of the run, but, like, through the first, second, third, and fourth Doctors, the Daleks didn't really miss. Like, if a Dalek shot at you, were just dead. In this one, they miss, like, very easy shots. Like, I think I could give a chimpanzee a machine gun and he would kill more people than the Daleks in this era, to be honest with you. So, like, I don't know. I think they're just a little too action blockbustery to be truly scary here, like they were in the RTD era. Like, the Daleks have never been better than Parting the Ways. And, yeah, just a fact, really. There are a few neat ideas here, but nothing too noteworthy. They are one of the few good things about the Chibnall era, and I think Revolution of the Daleks is a pretty good episode, all things considered. But they did start to feel a little more like an event again, and less like a villain of the week, thanks mainly to the fact that they only ever showed up for the New Year's specials. But it is better than what the Grand Moff had going, so this is a step up in the right direction. And this is where the episode was basically going to end, but someone in my comments section actually made me aware of this new Children in Need skit called Destination Skaro, and so I gave it a watch. It came out a few days ago. And basically it features Julian Bleach as a pre-accident Davros, working with this assistant guy on the early Dalek, which notably has a claw. So Julian Bleach is really good as Davros, and it's kind of cool to see him without the the disfigurements. And they make a joke about trying to come up with an anagram for Khaled to name the creature, but land on everything except for Dalek.
Yes, I did some research on the name, sir. Since we're called Khaleds, I thought our future selves could be an anagram of Khaled. Like Lekad.
No.
And then Davros gets called out of the room by Nyder to bomb the Thals, and then the TARDIS rams through the wall and takes the Dalek's claw off. The assistant talks to the Doctor, and we get this like weird scene where the Doctor accidentally names the Dalek.
Oh. That's a Dalek.
Oh. Good word.
And then gives them the war chant of exterminate.
I'm lucky I wasn't exterminated.
Exterminated? Yes, but yes.
Before putting a literal toilet plunger onto the casing in order to replace the claw. Davros then comes back and says he likes it.
I like it.
And I thought that was a pretty funny skit. And then I learned that this is canon, apparently. I'm not sure if it is or not, but I've heard people talking about it like it is, saying that all the other Children in Need stuff was canon, so therefore this is canon. Which, does that mean Curse of Fatal Death is canon? Like if this was just a self-contained like skit, I think this is okay. Like, it's a funny little thing. But if this is seriously supposed to have actually happened in Doctor Who, like, Doctor Who is fucking doomed. Like, if this is canon, I'm honestly speechless. Like, the jokes aren't even that funny, right? Like, they're kind of like boomer humour. Like, I don't know. Like, they're not even that funny, and it's such an affront to Terry Nation. And honestly, RTD's own original run of the Daleks, I don't get what he was doing here. And then I heard the worst part. The actual worst part. Because yes, it somehow gets worse. So the reason that Davros isn't in the chair and makeup anymore, I thought, because this is quite a change to the canon, I thought it's just a budgetary thing, that they just didn't want to get the chair and makeup ready for this Children in Need skit. So I'm just going to play for you the clip of RTD talking about it.
We had long conversations about bringing Davros back because he's a fantastic character, and there's a problem with the Davros of old in that he's a wheelchair user who is evil. And I had problems with that, and a lot of us on the production team had the problems with that, of associating disability with evil. I'm not blaming people in the past at all, but the world changes, and when the world changes, Doctor Who has to change as well.
What the fuck? Not even Chibnall was this obtuse. Nobody once ever looked at Davros and thought, oh yeah, he's evil because he's in a wheelchair. Or he's evil because he's disfigured. If you want to change representation, just put some good characters in a wheelchair in. Why are you changing Davros? Like, I mean, not to mention the direct contradiction to Genesis of the Daleks. Davros based the Daleks on his own chair because of his narcissism. He was in life support before the Daleks were made, and he explicitly states somewhere, I can't remember where, that the Daleks' own life support was based on his own. So what the hell is happening? Like, I don't know, this is stupid. Anyway, that was the Daleks. What a ride to get here. They've gone through a lot of changes and weirdness over the years. Writers have added bits and taken bits away from the lore, but we always get back to the same old Dalek shape and that same chant of exterminate in the end. Although, there was actually some concept art to have the Daleks be completely different back when they tried to pitch the American TV show in the 90s, but anyway. From the classic era of the Daleks in the 60s, to the Dalek Wars of the John Pertwee years, to the Davros Age and the coming Civil War, to the amazing RTD Daleks, the Nath Moffat ones, and the sort of inconsistent Chibnall ones. The Daleks are truly one of the greatest fictional creations to come out of Great Britain. If I had to sort of give you my opinion on what the top 5 Dalek episodes of all time were, I would say Evolution of the Daleks, The Parting of the Ways, Genesis of the Daleks, and at the number 1 spot, I'd say Dalek. And on a side note, my brother and I got to meet Nicholas Briggs when we were kids in England. We went to this writing workshop thing, and that was pretty cool. So he was a very nice guy. But and we got to use his he brought his ring modulators with him and let all of the kids that came to the writing workshop talk like Daleks and Cybermen for a bit, and it was it was pretty cool. This was a long time ago though, but. And if you have stuck with me this long, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, maybe consider buying one of my books, or maybe just read and share a short story from my website. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you all next time. Moving forward, I'm going to stick with the book reviews, and I'm thinking I'm going to run another long-form villain deep dive in the new year into something else. Hopefully as iconic as the Daleks, but it's going to be pretty difficult to find something. I'll probably post a poll about it at some point. So, thank you very much.